I've been married, at least in the next few days, we'll be celebrating 15 years. My wife is right here. Yeah. Now, so I'm not speaking from without. I'm speaking from a place of both experience and the knowledge of the word. Because when you look at what is happening in the Christian church, those that are, you notice that many times it's very easy to forgive a brother in church than to forgive your wife. Why? Why? Why do husbands and wives find it very easy to forgive and forget of what a sister in church did to you, but you find to their spouse, even after 20 years, the wife still tells the husband, I'll never forget how you cheated on me when we were in courtship. Look at that. In courtship. You see? I hope this is not that same behavior coming again. But if you've been born again for 30 years, and if you've been born again for 20 years, more than 20 years, like many of us here, you've gone through stuff. I've gone through stuff before. I've gone through betrayal. I've gone through situations that would make you want to react emotionally. But because of the love of God, you learn to move on. You learn to forgive and forget. Why can't we do that in our homes? That's the reason why. I'm sure you saw last week, one of the headlines was about how many couples divorced in 2023. And 2023, about 21,000 couples divorced. And I'm very convinced a great number out of that 21,000 are Christians. The reason is simple. As long as we have our own mystical Bible that we use for our marriages, and another one that we use for loving the brethren, we're going to find that even from within the church, we are getting headlines, and the negative headlines. Because if you cannot lift a knife before Sister Emily, why should you lift a knife to Pastor Faith? Why? 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 Because of the same element of having a different Bible for our marriages and a different Bible for loving the brethren. But when you study the scriptures, you'll notice, even when God talks about submission, you know, look at Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 21. He says, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of God. Let's go to 22. Then he says in 22, wives, submit yourself unto your own husband. Submit yourself unto your own husband. And you notice the submitting yourselves one to another in verse 21 is the same Greek word that is used in verse 22 when he says, now, wives, submit yourself unto your own husband. That means that the submission that God expects you to give Pastor Wanda should not be any different from the submission that you give to Pastor Faith as your zonal pastor. Look at that. If only we can accept the Bible, I'm telling you, we will have successful marriages. If only we can accept the word of God in our homes, we will build successful marriages. We will strengthen our marriages. But as long as we have a different Bible for your wife and a different Bible for the people outside, we're going to keep hearing of how the wife shot the husband stabbed the wife, and all that. And meantime, those are Christians. Now, time has come for us, Pastor Wanda. I bring this word to you and Nelly. Take the word of God as God's primary material with which he wants you to build your home. Because as long as you have your own theories, you're not going to build a successful home. Why? Because in the same manner, you can imagine that this is that same love. If God expects us to love our brethren the way we love our wives, that's where God is taking us. And that, you can imagine. Now, I'm not downplaying all the good things that we should do for our spouses. No. But it goes to tell you, this is why Paul can tell the church and say, do good unto all men, especially those of the household of faith. Because Paul understood that the love for loving Pastor C is the same love for loving Pastor Prince. That means if I can do good things for Pastor C, I must be able to express that love for my members in church. Why? Because it is the same love. Wow, yes. She is the wife of thy covenant. There is a place at which, you see, God says, unto those that honor me, I honor. That means there is progressiveness and a degree of appreciation. To whom much is given, much is required. I understand that. I understand that fully. That there's going to be a degree of appreciation, yes. But the basis must be the love of God that you use to relate at home and to relate at church and to relate at the office. Then you're going to build a home that even after today, next we'll be hearing, Pastor, we are now 10 years. Pastor, we are now 25 years. Pastor, we are celebrating our 50th anniversary. Only the love of God can do that. The one that is built on the full word of God.